Hey there, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. We are live. Yes, I still don't have my virtual assistant editing my movie reviews, so thanks for your patience. I'm just sitting here in my little home office and I'm going to try to keep this review short. I tend to ramble, and I am doing that right now, aren't I? And so let's get started. If you're a brand new subscriber, yay, thank you so much for joining us. And my subscribers already know that my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content. So you can decide whether or not you want to spend time or money or both watching a particular film. So today, the film I'm reviewing is called You're Cordially Invited. This opens in theaters this next weekend. And so, just a minute. The movie is rated R. It's an hour, probably a B, and I'll explain why. So don't turn off, just keep watching so you can understand where I came up with that grade. So first I'll give you an overview in a nutshell, then I'll point out things I liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and then we'll finish up with recommendations for other films that are sort of similar that you might also really like, especially if you like this one. All right, so first, in a nutshell, the film was written and directed by Nicholas Stoller. The story is about a woman who's planning her sister's wedding. She shows up at the private resort on a lake that she reserved, only to learn that a father booked the same resort for his daughter's wedding. And the catch is that this resort can only have one wedding per week because it's a small, I call it a resort, it's a small venue. Where people are staying there and then having the wedding on the dock or on the grounds. Anyway, so like I said, I was invited to this press screening and I thought it was a lot of fun. I love being able to watch these press screeners from home, which became a thing during COVID, but it's always a treat to join a real audience because then I get to hear their reactions and feel the energy in the theater. And of course, eat that amazing theater popcorn. For the most part, the audience really loved this comedy. I sat next to someone who just laughed at everything in the movie. And I thought she made for a good audience member because she was very vocal about what she thought about the film. She thought it was hilarious, but then a lot of other people too were, groaning or moaning or gasping, depending on what was happening on the screen. So the audience reacted very strongly, I think. Quick tips for parents. It's not really appropriate for kids. Plus, I think young kids are going to be bored anyway. There is a lot of profanity and a surprising amount of F-bombs. Now, I say surprising only because Reese Witherspoon is in it, and I don't hear that much profanity coming out of her mouth. But I guess it's no surprise with Will Ferrell in it. But I'll get to both of them here in just a minute. There are also some conversations that are pretty crude where I was just like, okay, it is rated R, but it could have easily been a family friendly movie if you had just cleaned it up a little bit. But I know not everybody wants clean, sadly. Some LGBTQ LMNOP, Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to say it like that. Are represented in the movie, and we see some bloody wounds. There are Chippendale dancers doing their thing. Again, that's not something that you want kids necessarily to see. And then there's a lot of talk about a woman who gets knocked up before her wedding. So some of the themes are stressful weddings, family drama, happiness, feeling like an outsider, even in your own family. And I know a lot of people feel that way. So I think that they'll definitely be able to relate to that. Honesty, toxic and unhealthy relationships, and revenge. So here's the long list of things that I really liked about this movie. First of all, Will Ferrell does a great job. Now, I know a lot of people who don't like him in anything. And if that's true for you, this is not your movie because he is in this movie a lot. And for the character and his personality, I thought he did a really good job. Anyway, Reese Witherspoon is also in the movie. She's 48 years old and she looks great. She looked so much younger than Will Ferrell. So I didn't quite buy their romance. Now, I don't know if that's a spoiler because if you've seen the trailer, it alludes to that. But it only happens at the very, very, very end of the movie, really. And I was just kind of like, whoa, because Reese seems so much younger than him. He's 57. He is older. She's 48. And so I was like, oh, that's so unbelievable. And then I remembered my husband is actually 10 years older than me. So obviously their character's romance is definitely plausible. I don't know that my husband and I look that much different, especially when we first got married. People just assumed we were the same age. So either they thought I looked older or they thought he looks younger or looked younger. People still say that about him. So anyway, I adore comedian Leanne Morgan. So I was thrilled to see her in a feature film. I've seen her give several stand-up gigs at Dry Bar Comedy, which is an awesome idea for stand-up. I'm just constantly shocked at some of the unbelievable things that stand-up comedians say in their sets, where I'm just like, whoa. And then it's on TV, it's on Netflix, it's everywhere. And I live in Vegas. And so if I go to a comedy club, which I don't hardly anymore because I know that there's just going to be vulgarity and I just don't need that. Anyway, so if you like Leanne Morgan, she plays a very small role, but she's adorable. And I even have the same dress that she's wearing in the scene during the rehearsal dinner. But anyway, Dry Bar Comedy is awesome. Here's my shout out. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on Angel Studios. And you can, of course, go in person. The studio is in Utah near BYU, which every single year for decades has won #1 squeaky clean university campus in the entire country because that it's a perfect place to have this comedy club because we don't want to be exposed to all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm rambling again, but definitely check out Dry Bar. And I think she's just so cute, and she has developed a really great following with 3 generations where you can sit next to your daughter and your mother and everybody enjoys it. It's just really cute. Okay, anyway, on to Fortune Feimster, who is also a stand-up comedian. I just watched her newest show on Netflix, and she gets a little dirty, but I also could tell she was trying to keep her profanity at bay, and I appreciated that. She definitely does not have a large role in this film, but she lights up the screen anytime she appears. She's just so likable. The entire cast was really fun and did a fantastic job, including Geraldine Viswanathan, Meredith Hagner, Keila Monteroso Mejia, Jack McBrayer, Celio Weston, Bobby Moynihan from SNL, and many, many more. They just all played up their characters really well. We get to spend time in beautiful Georgia, where I lived for 15 years. The setting is at a charming resort on the lake. And part of the movie was filmed at the Great Waters Golf Course in Greensboro, Georgia. I lived in Alpharetta and Roswell, Georgia, mostly for the 15 years. And it's such a beautiful state. There were only 3 things that I really didn't like. The fire ants that will just destroy your legs as they climb up, and then like on cue, they all bite at the same time. It's crazy. The humidity, which is insane. But I always felt like it was sort of God's way of apologizing by giving Georgia fireflies, which are so magical. And then the third thing was just that I had no family living out in Georgia, but I really did love it. Anyway, fans of Peyton Manning will get a kick out of seeing him in a few scenes. And they were really cute. They actually made me laugh. And I love that he can poke fun at himself and that he was included in this movie. Nick Jonas also has a very, very short cameo. And so I wonder how that happened. Everybody in the audience was kind of like, whoa, is he going to sing? It's at a wedding. So what's the deal? And so I was kind of surprised. He was there and then boom, he was gone. We see a sample of a reality TV show that Reese Witherspoon's character works on. She's, in the film industry or TV industry. Anyway, this show is called Is It Dead? Like, Is It Cake? Have you ever seen that TV show, which is amazing? Anyway, and so there's like this dead animal, Anyway, I don't want to give you any spoilers there, but it just kind of made me laugh. In one scene, a downpour forced all of the wedding guests to flee for cover. They were outside on let me think about this. Was this during the Yeah, it was during the wedding. Anyway, okay, I don't want to give you it all away what happens, but when I lived in Georgia, I can tell you that absolutely happens, especially in the summertime. Whenever a school or a group, organization, or church advertised any special event on a flyer, they would always say location plan A, outside at the park or at the lake or wherever. And then plan B, if it rains, then this is the address where you would go instead. And when I first moved there, I'm like, that's interesting because I lived in California and, I don't know, we just didn't have that. And so I thought that was just an interesting part of the culture. Anyway, there's another little funny moment where, in fact, it's is it Leanne Morgan? Leanne Morgan's character's house is being featured on Garden and Guns magazine, which I also thought was pretty Georgia. It just made me laugh. Keep watching during the final rolling credits to see some cute singing and some not so good singing, but some, dancing with all of the cast members. It's sort of the obligatory end of comedy singing, dancing moment. And so you'll just kind of go, oh, a lot of people just left the theater because they didn't know that was happening. So if you like the movie and you just want to eke out a little bit more, stick around. Now, on to the list of things that I didn't like or thought could have been done better. Obviously, you heard about the profanity. And if you don't like Will Ferrell, then just avoid this whole movie. There's this really long, unnecessarily long montage of a Chevy Suburban, actually several Chevy Suburbans. And I was like, okay, that is clearly product placement. And it just kept going on. And I'm like, wow, how much did Chevy pay for that? There are some very aggressive, entitled, and very judgmental Gen Z girls in the story that are super annoying. And they're supposed to be funny and cute. Not all of the humor lands, not for the audience and not for me as well. Obviously, because I'm a woman, I'm all about girl power. But as a mother of 4 sons and the wife of a wonderful man, I really hate that men are now being treated as toxic second-class citizens in today's society and cultural environment. And just as a woman, we're never going to gain a man's respect if we bully them and make them feel horrible about everything. And in this movie, all the men were, kowtowing, is that the right word? But just like, oh, we don't ever want to be called sexist, and so I was just like, wow, women, let men be men, and women are different. And it's for a reason. I mean, and that's not saying that we all shouldn't respect each other. Absolutely, that's a given. Anyway, now I'm going to go off on a rant. I won't go off on that rant, but that just kind of bugged me. These characters, I was just like, girls, lighten. Geez, Louise. All right. So speaking of lightening up, I always write down funny lines and interesting lines just to share them with you so you can get a taste for the dialogue and script writing quality and all of that. And so here are just some funny lines. And you can see all of them. My little voice assistant next to me is freaking out. I don't know if you can hear that. What was I saying? You can see all of the lines and more on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. But anyway, so for some of the funny lines, and 2 of these funny lines, when I typed them, I had to, put little X's on some of the words because I don't swear. And there's some profanity in these sentences. Anyway, so Reese Witherspoon, as I mentioned, works in reality TV and does all of this programming and stuff. And so somebody's asking her about witchy women, but it starts with a B. And so she's like, reality TV was built for beep women. And I just kind of thought, everybody laughed in the audience, but I thought, wow, is that true? Wow, interesting. Maybe I should have put that on my interesting section for the interesting lines. And then another thing happens and she says, what is this David Copperfield? Beep. I was just surprised every time potty stuff kept coming out of her mouth. I was just like, I think Reese Witherspoon is being very sweet. That's been her persona in a lot of movies, the majority of them. Anyway, actually, I don't even know why I shared those 2 lines with you. But this was a cute line. This one made me laugh. So Reese Witherspoon is talking to Will Ferrell's character. And she says to him, she saw him earlier helping his daughter do her hair. And she says to him, I thought you were a hairdresser. And he says, that's the nicest thing anyone has ever said. And then I thought one of the great reveals of the movie is what his profession actually is. And I'm not going to tell you because it literally made me laugh out loud. But anyway, I just thought that was just kind of a cute moment because, he's trying so hard to be a part of his daughter's world and, all of her friends and all of that kind of stuff. And then let's see, this is a really interesting line. The movie has, in terms of themes, it has a lot to do with happiness, seeking your own happiness, sometimes at the expense of your family, and sometimes leaving your family because your happiness isn't aligned with theirs, and all of that complicated, messy family dynamics. And so she's talking to somebody, and she says, "That's a lot to put on you. That his happiness rides on you." I don't know if I should tell you who that is. That's not a big spoiler. She's talking about to the daughter of Will Ferrell's character. And anyway, okay. Another one is an interesting line that Will Ferrell's character says. He's talking to Reese Witherspoon, and I think that's who he was talking to. Anyway, he says, when your child turns 18, that's 92% of the time you're ever going to spend with them. And when I heard that, I just went, I mean, yeah, your job is to help them to fly on their own. And when they leave their nest, it's so sad. I mean, as a parent, when I was in the thick of changing the diapers and the messy house and the rough and tumble boys, I mentioned I have 4 sons, I thought, oh, that's going to be so amazing, when they're all off on college and, and I could have peace and quiet and a clean house and, and then they all left and I have one still at home, but, I was just like, this isn't any fun anymore. So that made me sad. And I think that that's partly true, especially if they get jobs and they move out of state and you just don't see them as much. And then here's another interesting line that Will Ferrell's character says, being kind is very central to the person I am. And I thought that was sweet and a good goal to have. All right. So before we go, let me give you 2 recommendations for films I instantly thought of. The first one is called Meet the Parents, and maybe as a follow-up, Meet the Fockers, just because of relationships and trying to bring families together, a bride and a groom and, the in-laws and that whole thing and how messy that can be. And then Father of the Bride. Now that's been recently redone, but I really like the old Steve Martin version the best. Now, if you're interested, click on the link in the description below and it'll take you straight to those movies. You can rent them, or if they're free on Amazon or whatever, enjoy those. All right, that's it. By the way, I keep forgetting to look to see who's joining me. Hey, all right, I'm going to have to show my age by putting on my glasses. Mark, hey, thanks for joining me. Mark says, you may have heard Jerry Seinfeld say that if you tell a dirty joke and get laughs, you don't really know if it was funny. Some just like crass. A clean joke gets laughs and you know for sure. Exactly. In fact, when I was talking about that, I said, I don't really go see comedy shows or stand-up comedy very much. But the most recent one I saw was just a few months ago when he came to Vegas. And I saw Jerry Seinfeld. I went with my husband and my youngest son, and I was really crossing my fingers because when we see him on TV, he's not, like in Seinfeld, he's not swearing and he doesn't have a big potty mouth. But I thought, oh, I've never seen him in person. So I was a little bit nervous. He did a really good job. Everybody in the audience was there because they already adored him. The show was great. It was relatively clean. If I remember correctly, I think he might have had a couple, little words that slipped out and maybe a couple of insensitive jokes. But overall, the whole audience adored him, and I still do too. So thank you for sharing that, Mark. Mark is awesome. He's one of my favorite subscribers because he watches all of them and comments, and I love that. By the way, comment down below. Let me know what movie you're excited about seeing. Let me know if you think that you'll see this one. And when you get a minute, go visit me all over social media. I'm everywhere. Join my Facebook group called Movie Review Mom, where I share stuff about movies and everybody else talks about them too. Anyway, have a fantastic day and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.